I guess everyone must have heard that I was giving class again. That's why they didn't show up, huh? Anyway. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna Krishna Krishna
Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parudikacharya Ashtotter to Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parudikacharya Ashtotter to Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai Ananda Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Okay. So we're going to be on page 205. We're going to go to text 17 in chapter 5. This is Tapas's advice. So. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 8th day of August 2022 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are studying chapter 5. Chapter 5, text 17, on page 245. Tad buddhayas tadatmanas tannishtas tatparayanaha gachanti apunaravrittim jnana nirdhutakalmashaha. Sorry, page 245. Okay. Tad buddhayas tadatmanas tannishtas tatparayanaha gacchant apunaravrittim jnana nirdhutakalmashaha. Tad buddhayas tadatmanas tannishtas tatparayanaha gacchant apunaravrittim jnana nirdhutakalmashaha. Tad buddhayas tadatmanas tannishtas tatparayanaha gacchant apunaravrittim jnana nirdhutakalmashaha. Tad buddhayas tadatmanas tannishtas tatparayanaha gacchant apunaravrittim jnana nirdhutakalmashaha. Tad buddhayas tadatmanas tannishtas tatparayanaha gacchant apunaravrittim jnana nirdhutakalmashaha. Tat buddhayaha. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. I'll just read through. Those whose intelligence is always in the Supreme. Tat atmanaha, those whose minds are always in the Supreme. Tat nishtaha, those whose faith is only meant for the Supreme. Tat parayanaha, who have completely taken shelter of Him. Gachanti, go, apanaha, avritim, to liberation. Jnana, by knowledge, nirdhuta, cleansed, kalmashaha, misgivings. Translation. When one's intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge are all fixed in the Supreme, then one becomes fully cleansed of misgivings through complete knowledge, and thus proceeds straight on the path of liberation. Purport. The Supreme Transcendental Truth is Lord Krishna. The whole Bhagavad Gita centers around the declaration that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the version of all Vedic literature. Paratattva means the Supreme Reality, who is understood by the knowers of the Supreme as Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Bhagavan, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the last word in the Absolute. There is nothing more than that. The Lord says, Mattak padatanang nanyat kinchadasti dhananjaya. Impersonal Brahman is also supported by Krishna. Brahmanohi pratishtaham. Therefore, in all ways, Krishna is the Supreme Reality. One whose mind, intelligence, faith, and refuge are always in Krishna, or in other words, one who is fully in Krishna consciousness, is undoubtedly washed clean of all misgivings, and is in perfect knowledge of everything concerning transcendence. A Krishna-conscious person can thoroughly understand that there is, that there is duality, simultaneous identity and individuality in Krishna, and equipped with such transcendental knowledge, one can make steady progress on the path of liberation. So I'm sitting here without any water. No water? Hare Krishna. Sorry, I need the water. Okay. So, this chapter is called Karma Yoga Action of Krishna Consciousness. And that's better. So here's Krishna saying that intelligence, the mind, the faith, and finally parayanaha. All of this has to be fixed in Tat. Who is Tat? Tat is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then one is assured of going to that place where you're not covered again. Apunaravritim. We should know that in this material world, we've been covered. Our real intelligence, our real understanding is covered so that we can engage in activities on the false basis of the false identity of the body. If we're uncovered, then we wouldn't do that. But we wanted to be covered so that we could forget Krishna and try to compete with him. So Krishna consciousness is a matter of like cleansing away these coverings on our intelligence, on our understanding. And that's why it says, Gachanti apunarāvritim, that one will go to the spiritual world and not again be covered. In other words, you come to the point of complete purity and will never make the mistake again of wanting to be covered. Hare Krishna. Welcome. We're on page 245. Hopefully. Let me just see the book. It might be a different page. Yeah, you got it's chapter 5, text 17. It's a little bit earlier than 245, 243 or so maybe.
Sorry, what's the number?
Well, the chapter 5, text 17. You can find in the gutter at the top of the book.
I don't have my glasses. I probably can't see it anyway.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead. I can't even.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, the main thing is
By the word.
the main thing is hearing anyway.
It's fine.
Okay, so let's see we'll think about this. How can we place our intelligence, our mind, our faith, and our refuge all in the Supreme? And the Supreme is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So intelligence is our special feature of the human life, is the highly developed intelligence. Means that we don't necessarily or aren't necessarily controlled simply by the impulses of the mind and the senses, which the lower animals are. And human beings who are controlled by the lower modes of nature are also in thrall to the lower self. We may recall from the end of chapter 3 that Arjuna asks this critical question. He says, Atakena prayukto yam papam charati purusha anichanna vivarshanaya baladivina yojita. Atakena, how is it that we sometimes perform sinful activities as if by force, even though our intelligence is telling us this is not good for us, this is sinful, this is the result of ultimate suffering. But still we're impelled to act. What is that force? Why, how does that happen? Papa means understanding it's sin, as if by force. And Krishna answers very critically, kama. Kama esha, krodha esha, rajoguna samudbhavaha. Mahashano mahapapma vidinam vivaidinam. You should know that this is your real enemy, Arjun. Lust. Lust is not just sex desire, but it's any powerful impulse to try to enjoy the material energy. That's kama. And because we're not all powerful, because the material energy is under Krishna's control, oftentimes our desires are unfulfilled. Or they may be fulfilled in a way we thought that we wanted them fulfilled, but it turns out that makes us miserable anyway. In other words, we're not really in control. In other words, you're an addict, say.
I have just a quick question.
Yeah.
Does us being controlled in the material world actually put us at odds with Krishna because the material world does belong to Krishna?
So when we desire these desires, it's not necessarily that to desire these desires is wrong. It's just when we are going against Krishna, actually trying to take away even from.
Well, the thing is, Krishna doesn't need this material world. There's millions of universes. He's got the spiritual world. But what this material world really is a reformatory. It's a prison house. But the ultimate motive of Krishna creating it is to reform us and bring us back to Godhead. He doesn't abandon us. He's always with us as a super soul, trying to give us good intelligence. But in our limited independence, we can refuse to take that intelligence, that guidance from within, and then we're under the control of the material energy, and our intelligence is part of that energy. So in the third chapter, Krishna is explaining that when we come under the thrall or the control of material desire, Prabhupada explains very illuminating in the purport that this kama is simply prema that has been transformed when we forget Krishna and we try to enjoy this material world. It's that same desire to enjoy, but in its pure form, it is fulfilled by exchanging loving relations with Krishna. Actually, and what is love? Love is the desire to see the beloved happy. That's how you express your love, to do things to try to make the beloved happy. And then the happiness of the beloved is your happiness. The purest form, we know what's the purest form in this material world. Nothing is really pure here, but the purest form of love is mother for child. The mother for child. Completely selfless. The child, what's the bargain? There's no bargain. The mother simply loves the child. If the child is healthy and happy, the mother is happy. If the child is crying, what can I do to stop the crying? So
we got given something to cry about.
Huh?
When I was raised up, we were given something to cry about.
Talking to a child, I'm talking about 2-week-old baby, 3-week-old. I'm talking really helpless child who doesn't know anything.
We would be beaten.
Yeah. That's another point. But the idea is that in a healthy relationship, the mother, especially the parents, they just want, the child is now standing to walk. Oh, they're blissfully developing. So now if we project that to Krishna consciousness, we should understand that we're part and parcel of Krishna. The analogy is given to the different parts of the body, like this hand. Okay, the hand is obviously not an independently, living being, but the hand functions under my order. In other words, I want to get this water, and the hand does it, and that's the proper functioning of the hand. If the hand suddenly becomes paralyzed, it can't work, or palsy, it doesn't work, then it's a compromised hand, and it's not performing its proper function, and it's giving pain to the total body. It's not. I can't get my water. So we're like hands or limbs of Krishna who have rebelled. We're not performing our proper function. And if the hand, for instance, picks up, does so many things to secure food, and the food is prepared and, offered and then eaten. So the hand is doing all this work, but ultimately the tongue and the body and the stomach is enjoying. So if the hand were an independent being, it was saying, I'm doing all this work, and why, and I'm not enjoying, like the stomach. I'm not going to work. I'm going on strike until we. But if the hand doesn't perform its function and all the other limbs, then what happens? It gets weak, because it only prospers when the food comes in and the blood and the circulation. So this is the example. It's a crude example, but it's illustrative. We are really peaceful and happy and ultimately fully blissful when we're in this loving relation with Krishna. And it's a two-way thing. If you look up bhakti in the Sanskrit dictionary, which I have done, I've been working on the books for 50 years, it means an exchange of love. It's not just one way, it's an exchange of love. That's what bhakti means. So here Krishna says, first is the intelligence, tad buddhiyas. As human beings, we have the great opportunity, unlike lower animals, to understand this philosophy and ask the critical questions of life. as Sanatana Goswami has taught us. Does anyone remember when he surrendered to Lord Chaitanya? What is it? What did he ask? Now what's the situation? Here's this individual who's born in a Brahmin family, Saraswati Brahmin, which means the highest Brahmin class, and highly trained, very intelligent, knows 2 or 3 languages. He knows Bengali, but he also knows Persian, and other, and Hindi, of course. And he was the prime minister of the king, very responsible position. Now, I often wondered about that, just as a side light, as Bhadrin Ramanuj would say. How did Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami come to be servants of the Muslim regime? And they became outcasts from the Hindus from this, They were enticed by a high pay or whatever. No, they were coerced. They were coerced by the king because he saw how qualified they were and how influential they could be and how helpful they could be in running the kingdom. So he said, if you don't join my government and function as the prime minister and finance minister, which is what they were, 2 main ministers, then I'm going to start persecuting the Brahmins and the Vaishnavas. And so they said, okay, in order to say we'll do that, even we'll give up our caste and everything. So it's important understanding. They didn't voluntarily do that. But eventually, they joined Lord Chaitanya. They left anyway. But in spite of all of his great learning and his qualifications, when Sanatana Goswami finally got out of the prison of the king and he joined Lord Chaitanya in Benares, he surrendered. He showed his humility symbolically. I don't know if you know this. You take a straw in your teeth and you bow down at the feet. That's what he did. Sorry, I have a little problem with my voice. So, Hare Krishna. And then he said, "Kayami kenayamai jare tapetrai." He says, "I am known as a great scholar and so forth, but what's the use of it? I don't even know who I am. Who am I? What am I? And why am I suffering in this world?" These are the key questions that human beings have to ask. Now they ask him anyway on a relative say, "Why am I suffering? Because I'm not getting enough pay. Let's form a union and we'll have a strike." I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the labor, unions. But the point is, this is our answer to that problem. Why am I suffering? Because I'm too fat. I got to go on a diet. So we'll find out. Try to lose weight. Right? All kinds of answers to the question that are the wrong answer. Why are we suffering? Because we don't know who we are, and because we're acting against our own best interest. We're establishing all these attachments for things in this world, people and things and lower things, drugs and all kinds of stuff, right? A certain identity, whatever we may have. All of that is ephemeral. It means it's very temporary. It doesn't have anything to do with our real nature. We have to answer that question first. That's where he says, who am I? That's what am I? And that's the first lesson in Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna, all of your calculations, the whole thing is set up, it's very dramatic. In the first chapter, there's a big battle, it's all set up. They come between the 2 armies, Krishna has taken the role of a charioteer. He's taken the role of a servant of Arjuna. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But he takes that role, which is quite amazing. And so Arjuna says, take my chariot between the 2 armies, no man's land. There's millions of soldiers there, millions of soldiers here, elephants, everything. The battle's about to begin. Arjuna wants to see who's going to fight. Who do I have to fight? And in the other side, he sees all his relatives, his friends, his grandfather, his teacher. He says, what do I want to kill them for? In other words, he's saying winning the kingdom pales in comparison to the pain that I'll feel by being instrumental in killing them. The spoils of the battle, if I win it, will be tainted with their blood. I don't care about that. I'm going to go. Better that I go off to the forest and beg. You see. But his intelligence, Krishna is right there, his friend, and he knows that Krishna really wants him to fight, and he knows that the whole earth is involved. In other words, the leadership of the earth, whether it's going to be the demons or it's going to be Dharma or religion personified in the form of his brother, Yudhishthira. That's what's at stake. And Krishna has arranged all this so that Yudhishthira will, of course, be victorious and Dharma will rule the earth. So it's not just his own feelings. So, but it's so painful for him because he's identifying with his body and the relationships to the body and all the things, rather than as a servant of Krishna. So the whole Bhagavad Gita is spoken to bring him to the point of transcending the bodily concept of life and understanding that he's an eternal servant of Krishna. And then he says, Kadashe Bachananta, yes, I will do as you say. Even though it's against my gut feeling, I realize that this is the real, my self-interest and the self-interest, the interest of everyone else. So that understanding is available by using our intelligence. Tad buddhiyas. You remember when this verse keeps coming up in this, because it's central to the science of Krishna consciousness. And Lord Chaitanya, when he starts teaching the Sanatana Goswami, and he cuts to the point of abhideya, which is the practice, teaching the practice. First is the understanding. Who am I? What is this world? Who is God? What are the relationships? How am I not acting in that relationship now? That's the source of my suffering. But you still haven't started the practice of devotional service to bring your consciousness to that stage. You understand? That's why we have sambandha. Sambandha means the bonds, the ties, the relationship between things. Sambandha, the different kind of sambandha gyan, or knowledge of sambandha. But the basic one for entering into the house of bhakti is to understand who I am, what I am. I'm either this body or I'm something else. Who are you, Bhakta Saul? I know you're Saul, but oh, Saul. Okay, I'm sorry. His name is Saul. Yeah, he said it's Saul. I'm sorry. I'm just making a joke, bad joke. But what does that mean? What's the function of the soul? Every soul. Serve. Yeah, ultimately to serve Krishna. That's Lord Chaitanya's answer to Sanatana. He says, Jivera. Jiva means soul in Sanskrit or Bengali. Swarupoi. Swarup means your real nature, your actual nature, not your conditioned or illusory identification, but your actual nature. Swarupoi, Krishnera Nityadas, to be an internal servant of Krishna. That's our nature. We're not acting in that nature. We've forgotten it. That's our disease. That's the reason why we're suffering. Why am I suffering? Because you're acting in a false identity. You're identifying with the body, and both gross and subtle are always subject to the threefold miseries. Remember those threefold miseries? It's basically just three miseries, three categories of miseries. Who knows what they are? You know this. Hold on, he's going to answer. Okay, the first category is miseries created by the state of the mind and body. Number two, other living entities, oftentimes other people. But it can be, as Prabhupada says, bedbugs, sometimes bedbugs. Yeah. And then finally, natural disasters caused by Daiva, the demigods. It's interesting because now, who doesn't know about climate change? You may not believe in it. Does anyone not believe in it anymore? Anyway, now suddenly we got all these floods. We got a drought right here. Lake Mead is drying up. Our water comes from there, from Colorado River. It's not that you can dodge it. Well, I know that's something in the news. It's not affecting me. No, it's affecting everybody. The heat, we don't feel it so much here, but there's unprecedented heat waves all over the world. So this is all Daiva. This is all by This is all caused by the demigods. But you may say, well, didn't we cause it? All that carbon dioxide and greenhouse gases. But the way it works is that we do something and it results in the demigods doing something, ultimately. So that's the threefold miseries. And we're always suffering or being threatened to suffer by one of them, right? So that in itself is a suffering, the anxiety. Right now I'm not suffering, but I might suffer.
I gotta do dishes. I'm not gonna catch up. I gotta go back and knock some dishes out. That's how I feel.
You have to feel that right now?
I feel it, yeah. I feel it's like urgency to dish. To get it done. So I'm gonna excuse myself.
Okay.
And follow through with that.
Okay, fine.
Don't mind.
Now, you want to go right now?
I do.
Okay, great. But come back again, because I can see your
will.
benefit. Good. All right, we'll see you. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Anyway, so that's the first thing. We have to apply our intelligence. Dishes means our dishes?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought he was going home to do his dishes. All right, we'll deal with that later. So the first thing is, Tadbuddhiyas. We have to, this is what we're doing. That's the reason for the Bhagavad Gita class. This is the reason why Prabhupada wrote all these books, so that people's intelligence can be purified by hearing or reading this transcendental sound. Otherwise, the intelligence is contaminated by all other sounds. There's millions of things you can hear and read and see. You see what I'm saying? So once that intelligence becomes a little purified, you realize, oh, I'm a spirit soul. And I haven't been doing, I'm functioning as a spirit soul. So then, the next thing is the mind department. Minds are always on the Supreme. The mind, as we learn in the next chapter, can be the greatest enemy of the living entity, or the worst, or the best friend. So how is the mind function as our enemy?
Keeps you in
Bhakti
your
Arjun.
comfort zone.
Huh?
It keeps you in your comfort zone, tells you, it has a, I think, defensive mechanism.
Uh-huh.
It tries to tell you things which are not correct,
Which are bad for you.
which are bad.
In other words, it serves as a repository of all kinds of desires. The mind and the senses act together, and sometimes the mind is said to be the sixth sense. So what happens? You got these senses, right? The eyes, and you got the ears, and all these senses. And without a drop of Krishna consciousness, this is a whole field of enjoyment. And you're looking, you're scanning. Most of the things you're indifferent to. They're neither threats to hurt you or sources of pleasure. But at a certain point, there's something that's attractive there. Could be the opposite sex, something to eat, some movie to see, a million different things that can attract the mind. And so the desire enters into the mind. And then when the situation is ripe, is mature, you have the time to enjoy it, you have the money to enjoy it, you have the opportunity, and then it says, okay, let's go for it. Let's go to the movies, let's go drinking, let's do this, and there's a million different things, one after another. So the mind becomes this repository of all of these desires. And in that way, it's your enemy, because it's impelling you to do things that are ultimately bad for you. Basically, keeping you attached to this material world, so that when you die, you come back again and for another round of suffering. Dukkali amashashratam. Krishna certifies this world is a place of misery. If you keep your material identity and you act on it, you're tightening the bonds of your consciousness to this material world and ensuring suffering. So Krishna comes in order to teach this so that his praja, his children, who we are, he's the great father of all of us, we can be relieved of our suffering and learn how to really enjoy in this, and that is spiritually, by linking our mind to Krishna. So, Tadbuddhiyas, whose intelligence is in him. Remember that verse I always quote? It says, Kama dinam kadina kadita palita aduni deshas. So, Lord Chaitanya, in how many ways have I sought to obey the seductive demands of my wicked desires? This is in the mind. See? They've shown me no mercy, these desires. They've shown me no mercy. But on and on I've gone to quench lust's unquenchable fires. That's unquenchable. It's right in the 3rd chapter. Burns like fire, is never satisfied. But now I'm forgetting the poem. But now my higher intelligence has awoken, and I'm rejecting these masters, these bad masters, all these unwanted desires. I'm not going to serve them anymore, but I have to serve. So therefore he says, oh Lord, let me serve you with love that will never be broken, with faith that will never be broken. You see? So this is the choice of every living being, what we're going to serve. We have to serve. So that comes with the mind, to purify the intelligence, and then use the mind, direct the mind in such a way that we're engaging in Krishna service. Instead of thinking of this, trying to enjoy this, we control the mind and fix it on the holy name. Control the mind and read this book, not that book. It's always a question of the higher intelligence controlling the lower self. And then tanishtas, the faith. Faith is all important. We have to have some preliminary faith just to begin Krishna consciousness, just to walk in the door, just to open the book that nice fellow sold us back on the campus or wherever it was. There has to be some interest, preliminary interest. That's a kind of faith. And as soon as a little bit of that faith comes and we engage, then Krishna starts the purification from within the heart. And tat parayana, that all of this, having our intelligence fixed on Him, our mind fixed on Him, and our faith fixed in Him, will result in parayana. Narayana parayana. You can remember that? Narayana parayana? Easy to remember. So there's verses that have that. Parayana means fully dedicated. What does parayana say here? Who have completely taken shelter of Him. You see. So one who meets this qualification of the first line will get the benefit of the second line. Gachanti, they go. We're going to go somewhere. When we leave this body, we got to go, right? Got to leave the body. But what happens? Aparanavritim. Could go to that place where you're no longer covered, where you're in your full blossom of real intelligence and knowledge and identity. Jnana nirduta kalmasha, because by this knowledge you've been completely purified of all misgivings, all sinful reactions, everything. So this is a very nice verse. This is the process of Krishna consciousness, and the prerequisites and the benefit of it. Okay, any discussion on this point? Prabhupada is making the point that, why should we fix everything on Krishna? So he's proving in this little purport, from citing other places of Bhagavad Gita, that everything rests on Krishna. The different stages of the supreme reality, Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan, Krishna is Bhagavan, and he supports Brahman. He quotes the end of the 14th chapter, Brahmano hi pratishtaham. I'm the basis of Brahman. And we know Krishna is the super soul. He says right in the 15th chapter, Sarvasya chaham hridisam nivishto mataksmati jnanam apohanansha. I'm in everyone's heart, and from me comes knowledge and forgetfulness and remembrance. So Krishna is the ultimate reality, and we should have full faith in Him and fix our minds and intelligence on Him. All right, let's go on. Oh, this very famous verse, text 19. No, 18. 18, sorry, 18. Vidya vinaya sampanne brahmane gavihastini shuni chaiva swapakecha pandita samadarshinaha. The humble sages, by virtue of true knowledge, see with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahman, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog-eater, or outcast. Purport. A Krishna-conscious person does not make any distinction between species or castes. The Brahman and the outcast may be different from the social point of view, or a dog, a cow, and an elephant may be different from the point of view of species. But these differences of body are meaningless from the viewpoint of a learned transcendentalist. This is due to their relationship to the Supreme. For the Supreme Lord, by His plenary portion as the Paramatma, is present in everyone's heart. Such an understanding of the Supreme is real knowledge. As far as the bodies are concerned, in different castes or different species of life, the Lord is equally kind to everyone because He treats every living being as a friend, yet maintains Himself as Paramatma, regardless of the circumstances of the living entities. The Lord as Paramatma is present both in the outcast and in the Brahman, although the body of a Brahman and that of an outcast are not the same. The bodies are material productions of different modes of material nature, but the soul and the supersoul within the body are the same spiritual quality. The similarity in the quality of the soul and the supersoul, however, does not make them equal in quantity, for the individual soul is present only in that particular body, whereas the Paramatma is present in each and every body. A Krishna-conscious person has full knowledge of this, and therefore he is truly learned and has equal vision. The similar characteristics of the soul and supersoul are that they are both conscious, eternal, and blissful. But the difference is that the individual soul is conscious within the limited jurisdiction of the body, whereas the supersoul is conscious of all bodies. The Supersoul is present in all bodies without distinction. So it's important to understand, what does it mean to see with equal vision? It's not that he deals with all of them in the same way, because you have to deal with entities according to their state of being, state of consciousness. But on a higher level, he sees the equality of them all as spirit souls. The very living entity, which is in a dog's body today, in like 20 years, 100 years, can be in the Brahman's body. The bodies are changing all the time, our bodies. It's just like, apartments. We're in an apartment now, in the body, but eventually they get evicted. And according to our karma, this is on a material level, if you have some good karma, then you'll have some credits. You can buy a better apartment or rent a better apartment. The apartment may even be in the heavenly planets. But if you've sinned a lot, you don't have any pious credits, then your next apartment can be very lowly, can be subhuman. But it doesn't matter. In other words, you don't change. That's the first lesson. There's so many verses in the second chapter that the soul itself never changes. The soul is as eternal as Krishna. Ajo nityik shashvato yam purano. Unborn, eternal, ever existing, and primeval. Those adjectives describe Krishna as well as the living entity. So what is it that changes? Our outward, our two bodies, coverings. It's like the example of the shirt and the coat. The coat is the outward body. The senses, the ones you see in the mirror. And the shirt is your subtle body, mind, intelligence, and ego, which is really where you live. And that inner shirt, that doesn't die, that doesn't perish when the outer body dies. Then it's just like Krishna says, Vasangsi jirnani yata vihaya. You got to learn these shlokas. You ever heard this one before? Vasangsi means clothes. Jirnani means old. Vasangsi jirnani yata vihaya. Just as you discard old clothes when they get worn out or get stained or something like that. Eventually you go. Vasangsi jirnani yata vihaya. Tatashari Vasangsi jirnani yata vihaya. Navani grinnati naroparani. So the human being, the Nara, he takes on other clothes which are new. Then you get new clothes. Similarly, the soul gives up the old and useless bodies and takes on new ones. There's nothing but an old coat. And if you have a nice new coat, generally you don't have to discard it right away. You might, So why should we put all of our attention and our value and our hopes on our clothes? The clothes are, they're discardable. They're not us. That's the big mistake. So the pandita, the learned soul, those who are wise, they see the equality within all of these changing beings. Just like I take my walk, I take this walk. Sometimes I take it late at night. It's kind of 8:30. It's pretty dark. I got a little flashlight. So I have that flashlight mostly so I won't step on any bugs, because it's warm now, and they're out. There's a certain part, and I'm sure when I get to this part, I'm going to see these crickets. The majority are crickets, and they tend to jump. They might jump right under my feet. There's someone who poked his head in there. So I've wondered about them. These Hare Krishna, please have a seat. Yeah, we have about 10 minutes left in the class. Page 246. Oh, yeah. Darshan at 8:15. And so here are these crickets, or these little bigger bugs that are crawling. Sometimes they're really fast, And you marvel about it. He says, they have a brain. We have a brain which is so advanced and big we can cogitate. The brain is very rudimentary. Here's food, here's danger, here's the opposite sex. Basically those are the main things. So I'm danger, when I start walking. The huge, beast, I don't know what they're thinking. But it's danger. And so they have a strategy. The cricket hops, get really fast, get out of the way. And these other animals, these bugs, somehow they just start to stay as still as possible, because it could be a bird, and if it sees something that's moving, it'll go after it. So I have to be, when I'm taking my walk, I have to be careful to step in such a way that I don't kill the bugs. You know, I have the flashlight. But sometimes I think of the amazing creation of the Lord. There's a brain in there, very rudimentary, in that little body, and they enough brain power so they can understand this is danger, this is food, this is the opposite sex, you know, and I know what to do, you know. So, but it's the same living entity in that little bug, in us, and in Lord Brahma, the same amazing little soul. So we were discussing in the previous verse that Krishna says, when one's intelligence and mind and faith and refuge is all in the Lord, then one is sure to go back to Godhead and go to the and not become covered again. Apunar avritim, you see. And jnana niyadutta kalmasha, all one's sins are cleansed by this knowledge. So knowledge implies in Bhagavad Gita activity on the basis of that knowledge. You don't really know something, you know, you may know it superficially, but what's the use of book learning if you don't actually put into action, you know? So Bhagavad Gita is meant to be guidance for life. It's not just a philosophical treatise to cogitate on. And that's why before Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita as it is, nobody was becoming a devotee from reading the Bhagavad Gita produced by this scholar or that scholar, you know. Because it has to be the commentary has to be there from someone who has full faith, and that comes out in each word, you know, that is living, and it's a lived experience. So this, and then we also are studying now, the second verse we studied tonight, Vidya Vinaya Sampanne, this is a famous verse, that the humble sages, by virtue of true knowledge, see with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahman, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog-eater, and the outcast. Yeah, this is on page 246. I think your book has a different page number. It's 519. I'm going to take that book home tonight. It's not going. You won't see it again. It always causes trouble. Yeah. You had a question? Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Babu. Yeah, because we're running out of time.
So, as we know, the body is going to be finished at the time of death, and if we reach to the point of overpassing the stage, becoming pure and going back to Godhead, what happens to the subtle body, the mind and the senses? If you could remind me, because.
Well, just as we have a swarup, a form that's made of pure spirit. That's our actual eternal form. We also have a pure mind and intelligence, and senses. That's, in other words, what we have now is kind of a covering over our real intelligence, mind, and senses. But when we become purified, then that's part of our swarup. We'll have our own personality, which has senses, ways interactive with Krishna. So don't worry about it, you know. That the material mind senses are discarded, and our real spiritual mind and senses and intelligence are manifest eternally. Just as Krishna has mind and senses, you know.
So it's kind of you can say it's a part of it stays with the soul. It's also a part of your
intrinsic form. Every soul, just like these little bugs, they have a rudimentary intelligence, rudimentary mind. It's very more covered over, than human. The human life is a rare opportunity. That's the whole idea. I have time for this wonderful verse that Prabhupada always goes. Labdva sudurlabhamidam bahusambhavante manushyamārtatamanichyamapiya dhira turnamyateta napateta namityayavat nikshayasaya vishaya kalusarvatakshyat. It says, Labdva sudurlabhamidam. After many, many births, you have attained this very rare, hard to attain human form of life. Manushyam. And what's the benefit? Artadam. You can actually achieve the goal of life in this human form, not in the lower forms. They don't have the capacity. But like all forms, anityam, it's not eternal, it's temporary. Time is wasting. So one has to be dhira, one has to be very thoughtful. And then what's the result of that? Turnam yateta. Without wasting another second, one should strive for what? Turnam yateta napateta, as long as the body hasn't died yet and is still active. Anumitya yavat. Nikshayasaya, strive for the ultimate good. Now, what is that ultimate good? We have to hear from Shastra and Guru what that ultimate good is. Simply put, it is regaining our original identity as eternal servants of Krishna. Each of us is an eternal servant of Krishna in our own specific swarupa, rasa, and going back home, back to Godhead. Leaving aside, eventually, we're all going to leave this body, but to leave it for one last time and never to return again, and to go back home, back to Godhead, and to resume our eternal relation with Krishna in the loving relationship, And it could be as a coward boy, as a coward girl, a father, as this, and that. There's a million different ways. But it's all in relation to the Supreme Lord Krishna, or you may be attracted to Ram or Narayan, but some pure relationship. That's the nikshayasa. And that takes training, it takes effort, it takes austerity, it takes tapasya. But the wonderful thing is, nothing is lost. Even if you don't succeed in this lifetime, any advancement you make is we take up in the next life. Krishna says, Neha bhikkhumanashosti. There's no loss or diminution. Pratyabhaya vidyates, even a little advancement on this path can protect one from the greatest danger, which is to lose the human form of life. So we should strive for Krishna consciousness, take up the chanting of the holy name, and you're all invited to come back to Bhagavad Gita class. We have Monday, Tuesday,
Hare
Wednesday.
Krishna. Sorry, Dravida Prabhu. Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances.
Haribol.
I just had a question. So that I understand that the Paramatma is within everyone, every living entity, no matter what the circumstances are, and never leaves. But or that's my question. He never leaves, even if it's like the biggest demon.
Accompanies the soul in whatever body he's in.
And then, but my other part of the question is, it's just that you can see, certain people are more pure, more, you can see God you can see Krishna within them more. Does that mean his energy diminishes within demoniac, like demons?
It's not a question of diminishing. It's just being more and more covered. Just like in lower species of life, there's, the intelligence is covered. There can't be really any manifestation of God consciousness. But even in human life, the divine presence is not manifest until we start purifying, and then you see, people manifesting the attraction to Krishna and the love of God ultimately. We have to adjourn because we're going to have darshan in 4 minutes. All glories, you're all invited. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol. Also, we have class tomorrow and the next day, 7:15. Hari Bol. Welcome. And we have, after class, don't forget, we have some prasadam outside. Yeah. Kadashi prasad today. Okay, my name is Dravida Das. I've been here for many, many years. And I had some problems with my voice, but I'm resuming my Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday class.